Good afternoon. How are you doing? Initially, I would like to solidarize with all the Mexican people in the severe situation that we have had in the last few days, and also from Argentina, bringing the solidarity of the people in Santa Fe, and thanking especially all the organizers in this world meeting on values. I'm very honored to participate in this activity, and Dr. Bernardo Klingsberg for moderating this panel. That is also a great honor for me. Initially, I would like to tell you very briefly where I'm coming from, the province of Santa Fe in Argentina, a province that, as you can see there, it has 5 regions, 19 departments, 363 municipalities and communes, and 3,369,000 inhabitants. Our educational system, as it was said before, is more than 800,000 students, almost 90,000 teachers, as well as assistants, and all the staff that is supporting the schools. 4,825 schools in the 363 municipalities in small areas, as well as in the rural areas. We have a great number of rural schools that are serving this population. So our public policies for education has been existing, has been developing for 10 years. 10 years of the government, of the progressist government, that has clarified and very clear what is the development in education. We have prioritized education, giving a budget that is above 35% of all the budget for the province year after year. And we have prioritized also the public health, which is the second ministry with the largest budget in the province, which is also part of education model and for public health that we can show in different places. Our work access our socio-education work, education quality, and the school as a social institution. That means a school that is open door school that can interact with the community, that can interact with some other institutions, that includes the family in order to be able to work in a joint manner. This year in particular, we're working in a very, very important process in Santa Fe, which is the development of the provincial law for education. We have a law that is very, very old, from 1949, that of course it has nothing to do with the educational development or in the province of Santa Fe or Argentina. Unfortunately, during all of these democratic processes, we have not been able to reach the necessary consensus in order to have a new education law. So we have addressed a very participative and unique process where we have participation forums for the citizens, when we have a dialogue with the neighbors, when the professors talk and the students, and the centers of students that are representing them, that we have some forums with the community members, as well as the specialists in education technology participate, as well as organizations for parents or disabled children, where we participate. There are many actors and different players from social civil society participate in order to try to create this educational law. This is a law that is based on rights. We say that education is the mother or the basis of many other rights. Amongst them, of course, education for citizenship is one of the axes that we're working in this law. Within the framework of these forums, we have called many specialists in education, like Dr. Miguel Martínez Martín from the University of Barcelona, who conveys very clearly many ideas that we share. A model of education in values will never be enough in order for a person to be able to understand that they are formed from the ethical standpoint. They have to complete it with the values of family, their religion, their political ideology. So some of the contexts in their development that give more values. School, at least, has to guarantee 3 values. and we agree in this, which are finally the ones that create a moral atmosphere that allows to build a democratic society. And we're talking about autonomy, dialogue, as well as diversity. Initially, autonomy. A child has to understand many things, but initially has to understand and has to know that he or she is going to continue learning all his life or her life. It's not only the school years or the atmosphere in school, the only atmosphere for learning, but also and fundamentally, there has to be autonomy in order to exercise in the future their citizen culture and their democratic participation. An autonomous child that is critical and active will cultivate participatory democracy. A child that is able to build a project, to dream, to make the projection of a life project for him and for his community, he's going to be an active citizen. We want to have democratic participation. We want the citizens to be empowered so that they can develop their potential in society. When they are young, many times we sit them in front of a blackboard and we talk to them. So that definitely does not empower the children, and it doesn't give them the possibility of saying what they think and what they feel. We said that it was also very important to address dialogue and work, and that's the way to address differences and conflict. This is very important if we want to really have dialogue as something inherent in a democratic society. And the third one, the diversity, understanding that the difference, not inequality, which is something different, but difference and diversity is what really enriches us as a society. And a different society has a great value. Working in this way, we know that school helps while it does. So it's doing in the labor work or in the development of the labor world, but also doing in order to build these values. Within this framework of learning by doing, the ministry in Santa Fe has developed a large number of programs and proposals. Following these three guidelines that we talked about, inclusion, quality, and school as a social institution that can engage with some other members in society. Of course, that this also requires permanent training in our professors. We have to accompany the school and the faculty so that this change can happen. If we leave them alone, it is going to be very difficult with their initial education and with the practices that are done for many years and they're rooted in the school. It is very difficult to have this transformation that we want in education. In this sense, I would like to share how we implement in Santa Fe some of the programs that are strategic, just a few that I would like to work with you. Specifically, talking about autonomy and some other of the values, one of them has definitely been entrepreneurship pedagogy, a program that we took as the Fernando de la Vela's model from Brazil that is really giving us great results. It's a methodology that promotes in the children, from the youngest children, we're talking about the initial level, 4, 5, or 6 years old, of course, elementary school and middle school and higher education, in all of them, that desire to dream, to think what we want, and how actively we can start building proposals in order to be able to make those dreams come true. It's not the dream of what I want to do when I grow up. It is not that dream on the long term, but something much more concrete that can enable the children to plan and to carry out actions in order to achieve it. Sometimes these are projects that are 1 year, 6 years, 2 years, that engage the child's action or taking action. As I said, we start in the initial levels. Now we have more than 77,000 students in the entrepreneurial pedagogy, of course, that accompanied with the training of the faculty in order to continue with this process. Another proposal that we carry out is the Mutualism and School Cooperation Program. Cooperativism is very rooted in the province of Santa Fe. In fact, Santa Fe was where the cooperativism started in Santa Fe. So that's why we can work with these kinds of programs. Fundamentally, the children, they make economic and social programs that can enhance relationship of redistribution, solidarity, and reciprocity, always with the purpose of a common good. Some of the projects for citizen participation and, of course, that strengthen the civic culture are developed in the electoral processes in schools, in Argentina and in Santa Fe, as in many other countries. We sometimes change the electoral models, the ballot to the unique ballot, where we see all the parties, the electronic voting, many other different ways that are developed, and this tends to generate also some kind of confusion and some kind of doubt in the community. That is why in schools we make some kind of rehearsals, electoral rehearsals every 4 years. The kids participate actively. They make their own parties, and we try that whatever they vote are with heroes of our history or just world heroes. And of course, the professors of citizenship and history, they can contribute in making these proposals, get there and try to build based on what the children want to vote on. Finally, we make the ballots and the urns an electoral process that is complete, even with a campaign within the school for those historical heroes. And the truth is that when we see the result of the children, it's very interesting. We also do it from the youngest all the way to the oldest. And many times it's the children, the ones who convey to their families, their friends, and their neighbors how things have to be done. And they learn it very, very fast. The formation of student centers. In Santa Fe, we have a law for student centers. We promote in middle schools and higher education schools or tertiary schools that they develop also, that they can also create the centers with all the legal requirements and their assemblies, and that participation also contributes in improving the school. Another proposal that is very interesting, that particularly in the city of Rosario, in my city, we carry out since many years ago, is participative budget. The citizens define within a certain frame of the budget for the city what they want to invest in their own neighborhood, how they want to do it, and what are the proposals. Those proposals are presented and they're voted on. And finally, they're carried out, the programs that the same citizens are suggesting. In a segment of that budget, we have the participative budget for the youth, and that's where we involve the school, mainly for the middle schools, so that they can suggest what they need in their neighborhood, what they want in their school, and what they want in their location, so that they can be engaged in a very active manner. We said that another one of the fundamental values was dialogue. Dialogue as a way to solve conflicts that suggests respect to diversity and building subjectivities that are autonomous. I would like to show 3 proposals. The boards of coexistence in school. These are developed with parents, with students, with the faculty, directors, assistants at school that are also part. Any reference in the community who wants to participate in this kind of school sharing. We use the round of words and any conflict, to prevent increasing this conflict. This can be done every week or every 2 weeks. It's defined by the school. The LASOS program, which is a program that prevents problematic consumptions, addictions, and violence in particular. This is developed within the social cabinet. This is a department that the Ministry of Health participates, as well as social development, as well as culture, and of course education ministry. And we address with the different skills this topic that definitely affects us all. It is a topic that we talk about in school. We don't want to hide it, but we want to talk about it. And based on this conversation, finding the routes and the way to help those youth who have violence or some problematic addiction. And of course, that learning doesn't only happen in a conflict framework, but also as proposals for collective work and permanent. In this case, what we develop are the literary conversations. So we bring books back to the children. In this year, we have given more than 100,000 books of classic literature, so that the kids have it at school, at home. They can share with their families, and they can participate with these conversations. We learn how to listen, how to use dialogue, respecting opinions, freedom of expression. And we make collective reading as well as a personal reading of this classic literature. All these proposals have something in common. They're done in circles where everybody has a possibility to talk, but they have a very well-established dynamic, how to use, how to give opinion, who is going to be in the dialogue, and definitely that sharing the word is for everyone, and everyone participates. As we said, the third value that we're very interested in working and that we work is respect to diversity. Here I would like to mention in particular some programs like, for example, integral sexual education, respect to differences, to sexual rights, recognizing diversity as a human right. In Argentina, we have a law for integral sexual education that allows us to address it in all the schools. This is starting in 2006. The other line that is very, very important is interculturality. Work with the little areas that we have, the towns that we have, the indigenous people that we have. We have more than 20 intercultural schools that are bilingual with the different languages, and there we have professors, we have from the original towns or entities. In particular, two ethnias that are present in Santa Fe, the Mocoví and the Tova, and we work with them in the development of these schools. Finally, dialogue, intergenerational dialogue, a dialogue that is we also have to promote in very much. Sometimes we hear the older people say, the young people, they speak a different language. There's things that we don't even understand. So how to address that intergenerational dialogue with in a way that it's much strong. In this case, some learning communities that include parents, grandparents in the classroom, in a work that is called interactive groups, where they collaborate directly the different families in the learning processes. This is something that is giving us very good results, and we are developing this in some of the schools in Santa Fe. And of course, audiovisual language. If there's something that kids handle in very, very well and motivates them so much, is the audiovisual language. For this, we have developed a literacy program where children think about a topic that they address, some of the programs that we talked about before. Now we're watching a video that is called Paco, the wolf child, that is a fiction that the children developed, where they talk about lack of understanding, the need to get close and understand and respecting others. This is very interesting because the kids in the classroom, they think about the script, they have cameras, they have mics, they have people that of course are teaching them how to handle them. They develop the wardrobes, and they're the actor. Any topic within the school field, we can address it this way. And here we have very clearly, we understand what they think and what they want and what are the things that are motivating for them. So developing this kind of proposals, the truth is that it's very motivating for them. We have a channel, the Ministry of Education Santa Fe, ME Santa Fe. So through YouTube, you can see tens of these proposals that are organized by the children themselves, which are audiovisual proposals in order to deal with all kinds of topics. This is Paco, the wolf child. Do you have the sound? Because I would like you to see the children also. Yes, I'm always alone. Oh. Yes, they think that I'm a bad animal. All the kids at school, they think that I'm bad. This is Paco. So the special effects, they also make the special effects in the computer, because in Rosario it never snows, and we could see those special effects that they thought about and they created. Also, with this kind of language and working with the specialists as Dr. Bernardo Klisberg, we have thought about a series of values for all the society in Santa Fe. We have worked in a series of 10 chapters, which are almost about to be finished in a program in our channel in public television in Santa Fe in regards to working with values, starting with the great heroes in humanity. What he was saying, all the examples, the role models, how to teach through those role models and how to show what we want. So let's try to see part of the trailer that we developed.
This is a phenomenal thing that we see around us, particularly youngsters. They know one another episode of heroism, and then they begin to fall in a sort of nihilism, it's called, a total lack of credibility. They don't believe in anything, and sort of like this thing is so sad that we were born egotistical and that'll be forever like that. And there are no true heroes that could be reference models for us. And so we're going to start and we're going to develop this. We're going to show this completely openly, showing that nobody is perfect, noticing their wonderful contributions, but also their weaknesses, because every human being has a weakness, but showing their enormous balance of ethical contribution to the human race. We're going to start then with something that's very close to us, because...
So this is part of the material that we are already developing. As I said, it's going to be in the public channel in the province of Santa Fe, and it's going to work in each one of the schools in the province, in the middle school, in high school, and also in faculty training. That, as I said, is indispensable to work in it, so that the faculty training, we can see the changes that education needs. The truth is that when we work with this perspective of values, it is very interesting to see, again, how children and the youths are engaged. I said at the beginning of this conversation that we're working with our law for provincial education. Within this framework of this law, we address values, we address actions, and many things that are going to be present in the articles in this law. And with a great surprise and with great hope, in our youth, we have seen that the ones that have made more propositions for values for the next of our provincial law for education are the youths, all the youths who are in the educational system. Of course, that for this, they have to be in the education system. And that's why we are talking about inclusion. We have a program that is called I Come Back to Study. It's a program that has been awarded internationally because it gave the possibility to have more than 18,000 youth that were not in the educational system. Now they are part of the educational system, and this makes us feel very proud. I was saying that the ones that participated more values for the construction of our law are the youths. They were talking about respect, about empathy, about understanding, dialogue, trust, equality, engagement, participation, integration, equality, persistence, solidarity, responsibility or accountability, freedom, humility, and democracy. Thank you so much.
And Faith? I know it's another girl, but... Okay. Very well, let's... Well, how are we for time? Time is always depleted. We always run out of time. So we're going to distribute the 4 questions that we have here. How to see the purpose of life in the youngsters? What do you think is the best way of fostering commingling in the school? How do you feel a teacher at any level can have studies of pedagogy? Do you believe that they should have studies in pedagogics? So which one? Which is the best way to foster commingling in school and or coexisting? Do you believe that any teacher of any level should have studies in pedagogics, my dear friend? My other 2, and the other 2 questions will be for later. Well, I don't know if I have to take the microphone, or do you hear me well?
So how to instill in the youths a purpose for life? For us, it has been a very, very interesting challenge working with this topic, because we know that whenever we are able to have the youngsters have this purpose, what we call a life project, which is individual, but at the same time a collective project for their community, for their neighborhood, for their family. In some way, this fosters that motivation and that willingness. The first thing that we need with the children and with the youth is the willingness to be engaged and to be committed. Without that willingness, there's nothing that we can do in order to develop the best educational project that we can be thinking about. For us, it was a very interesting response, the entrepreneurial pedagogy. There's a dynamic for work that is established, accompanied with training for the teachers, with specialists, work in the classroom with the children, that really fostering the fact of working for a project has been very, very interesting. The kids, when we motivate them and when we accompany them, they learn how to project themselves very, very fast.
Let's go into what challenges, because of the lack of time, what are the challenges that you have faced in implementing the programs, and how have you solved them? Any important challenges?
Many. First, their fears. That was the first challenge. When we said, you have to give the children the word, you have to listen to what they think, what they say, what they want to do. There was a huge fear. Probably there are problems that we're not able to solve. Probably the teachers don't have the answer. Probably this ends up in a frustration more for the kids, especially in the most vulnerable areas in society. And the truth is that that fear immediately was diluted when you really make them the real actors or players. As teachers, we can carry out all these processes without any fear. We have to overcome this first barrier, thinking that we have to solve everything ourselves alone, that we can work with them, and that way we can empower them.
I have the impossible task, because I only have 2 minutes only, to get some conclusions, some final conclusions. There were 4 things that I want to stress from these wonderful presentations that we have just heard, and the entire day of work today, where, as we had mentioned earlier, education is one of our main hopes. First of all, it is a myth, this thing that education is one of the main hopes for changing the world. You know, the Max Planck Institute developed a series of researches recently on babies. And they tried to detect whether babies, the famous question was, do babies come to the world with an egotistical, are they egotistical or not? And the conclusion of that foundation that is very prestigious in the world was babies come with a very high fund of altruism and, of course, with also egotistical trends. What is going to decide what's going to happen with the baby is what comes afterwards. Immediately afterwards comes school. Okay, today at 2 years, 3 years of age at the most, they go into school. Preschool is decisive and fundamental, and all of the different instances of school are going to clean the scale in one direction or another. In societies where we live, there's going to be enormous pressure for inclining the balance or the scale into the direction of I'm going to keep everything, the toys of others are mine, I don't want to share, I'm going to compete until the end of my life, and I don't give much importance to the other, I'm going to be a pyramid climber, and so on and so forth. But if the school managed to lean the balance, the scale, towards the altruistic fund, then we can expect things that are very important. Secondly, the second reference. One of the ethical heroes that we see in the 12 ethical heroes that we're working on in Puebla and in Santa Fe, and interlinked, by the way, is exceptional. That was one of them, was Nelson Mandela, an exceptional hero. Mandela, after being imprisoned, where he got tuberculosis, by the way, definitely, and that's what killed him, actually, at 97, though. But he wrote the following thing. Mandela said, no one is born believing that his race is greater than any other, superior to any other. This is something that is taught to people. Hitler used to teach that. And there are those. The neo-Nazis continue to teach this in the world today. So Mandela said, just like you can teach that, and you can learn that, you can also unlearn that. The power of education is phenomenal. Thirdly, the third reference is another ethical hero that we have in our series. His name is Satyarthi. He won the Nobel Prize together with Malala. Satyarthi is from India and Malala is from Pakistan. Satyarthi saved 80,000 Hindu children from the organ traffic and from the children's traffic. Or he was threatened to death, and his body is full of bullet scars and blow scars. In Satyarthi, I asked him, when we shared a table, I asked him, and why do you continue to do this? Why are you still in this? I mean, you could get killed right now because the bands of children traffickers, which is a very prosperous business in India, they see him as enemy number one. And he answered, well, the thing started because when I went into the primary school and I was 6 years of age, and we were a group of middle-class kids that went into a primary school in India. I saw that at the door of the school there was a youngster, our own age, 6 years of age, who was polishing shoes. And we all went into the school except that kid. And so I asked the teacher, this was my first question in school, by the way, why doesn't this kid come to school with us if he's the same age as we are? And then the teacher answered, his father used to shine shoes too, and he also could not get into school. He belonged to the pariahs. And this is, I hate the social structure of India. And his grandfather, the same thing. So with him, and Satyarthi with his 6 years of age, he says, I do not agree. I'm going to change this. And so he dedicated himself to save the kids, to save the children. He's an ethical hero of the human race. Enormous value to be teaching this to our young Latin American kids, which are overwhelmed by the egotistics and the hedonistics educators of the treasure hunters and so on and so forth. And my last reference is on education. First of all, I showed you the Planck Institute, firstly. We see here how these systems, these educational systems, how many students does yours have? Almost 3 million kids. And these two educational systems are fighting for the altruistic fund. Secondly, they're fighting for all of these messages that they get to the kids every day in many cases in the mass media. Be egotistical, be indifferent, don't get involved. What do you care about society and so forth? They're fighting, they're struggling to revert this, so that what Nelson Mandela said is come true. You can learn all of this, but you can unlearn and learn something else, facing this permanent avalanche of negative messages. Well, in the third place, the two educational systems that we have seen not only teach well with the most advanced methods and modern ideas, but they teach senses, they teach sense, they teach values. They want to form not just secondary, middle school kids that will join the best universities, but they want to form good people, good persons, good citizens. And my last reference, there's somebody who was, this is another one of the ethics heroes of our 12 ethical heroes, whose name is Anna Frank. You know, Anna Frank, as a 15-year-old girl, she was locked in an impossible place to live without any light for 2 years so that the Nazis would not kill her. Anna Frank, in the middle of that, wrote one of the most used texts by schools in the world, the diary of Anna Frank, or Anna Frank's diary. And that youngster, without any light, without any hope, without anything, she wrote how wonderful it is that at every moment each one can help somebody else and change everything and change it all. Education can actually get that sensation to be transmitted to our children. And this is what these two formidable educational systems are doing, and many others as well. There is hope. Thank you very much.